Hey gang, welcome back to Progressive Outcomes. Spence here. So as promised, here we go, the unveiling of the custom rifle I talked about in the last video. Voila.
Ooh.
All right. All right. Well, let me show you what I put together. Starting from the front, we have the APA Gen 4 muzzle brake. And if you want to know more about the muzzle brake, watch the video above. You can get more information on that. Going down, I chose a carbon 6 Magnum profile carbon barrel in 22-inch length, a 1-in-8 twist, right-handed twist. And I want to do a special thank you to Gene, the owner of Carbon 6. Working with him in the customer service is phenomenal. Gene, thank you. Moving on to the scope, I chose the Zero Compromise 5x27, first focal plane. Excellent scope here in FDE. And the Impact 3X reticle. Really like this reticle. Look it up. Good stuff. Moving on, it is sitting in Area 419 match rings. Great product. Highly recommend it. Moving to the receiver. But before I start manipulating the action, what I want to do is make sure safety is paramount. Clear the magazine. Pull the bolt to the rear. I want to make sure I check visually and physically, check there's no brass or no ammo in there. Weapon is clear. Emphasize the point. I want to drive it home. It's unsafe. Shouldn't fire. On fire. Clear the weapon. Put it on safe. We're good. Good to go. So the receiver. The receiver here is a Terminus Zeus quick change long action system. It's a 3-lug bolt system, and it is one of the smoothest actions I've ever used. With a 60-degree throw, it just fits the need and it feels wonderful operating. And I have an impact precision action. I've shot some high quality actions in the past, and I must say, this particular action is fantastic. Joel at Terminus, awesome product. Awesome product. And also the quick change is part of my program, of my application base that I'm going to cover later as we start using the system. Moving on to the chassis, which all this sits in. First of all, the chassis is bedded. I'm a firm believer that you should bed all your systems. Whether you have a chassis, whether you have a stock, I'm a firm believer and promoter of bedding your systems. Now, there's a right way to bed and a wrong way to bed, so make sure that whoever beds your systems does it right. And so the person that I use, Wayne, shout out to him for doing all that work over at Pacific Custom Rifles. Great job on your bedding system. Excellent work. The chassis is from MPA. Ultralight. This is the ultralight model. So what I like about the MPA chassis is it has the integrated arc rail in here, and that's huge to me. I like the full length because I like to manipulate my bipod system up and down when I'm in different alternate positions. The other part to me is I am very quirky about marrying your weapon system and customizing it to you and your body. That to me is very important. So having the ability to adjust your drop to comb and as well as your length to pull, having the adjustments to do this to really fit and custom fit your body like a custom fit shoe. Really important. Eye relief, super important with that to get ocular clarity. So you might notice there's something here. So this is something of my own invention. I actually learned this back in the 80s from some great shooters in the past. And basically what this does is when you come down on the system, when you marry up to your weapon system, you get, excuse me, I have a cheek placement on your eye relief. You always get your perfect eye relief once you set your eye relief on your system. So you take the guesswork out of it. So you're not fiddling sometimes in different positions. As you well know, when you're in the prone, your head tends to move a little bit more forward because of your body position. And when you come off the ground into alternate positions, your head's going to go back. To prevent not getting into your proper eye relief or keeping that ocular plane, this little, I guess, cheat sheet kind of thing or hack, you just come right up into the system. When you come up into it, boom, perfect eye alignment no matter what terrain or whatever position you find yourself in. Just a little tip.
Kind of the KISS principle, right? Keep it simple.
Keep it simple. Correct.
Yeah.
Excellent. The grip, so the MPAs usually come with the 90-degree pistol grip. I actually prefer to have more of the AR-15 style pistol grip for me, ergonomically speaking. I also made another modification for myself is this particular models don't have the thumb shelf, and there's really no way to really have one to install. So what I did is I fabricated one of MPA's thumb rests for the other models that he has, and then I inserted here and did it myself. So that way now I have a good thumb rest when I am shooting my weapon system to get that 90-degree squeeze. Trigger system. Last but not least, I use a TriggerTech Diamond Green, which is basically a two-stage model with the flat shoe. I love two-stage triggers. For me, in my head, in my shooting process, I really get accurate trigger squeezes and presses using a two-stage. And for me, it's a two-stage. Most people use the red diamond, which is a single stage. And to me, it's shooter preference. But TriggerTech triggers as a whole, I recommend staying with the diamond line. And they're excellent trigger systems. Fantastic. You can make adjustments. I got mine set at 10 ounces on break. And it's a fantastic trigger system. It's crisp, positive. No, I mean, it's an I can't talk more about that particular trigger system. Love it. What I also like is I'm a big folding stock guy. To me, that's nice. Huge. Access to your receiver, your bolt, for many other options. I like the fact that it folds to the left. I'm not a big fan of it folding over the bolt. So that's just me, my personal preference. But I like it. And the MPA's folding system is rock solid. There's no wiggle. It locks solid, like a solid one-piece stock. Last piece here I'm going to talk about, this is a Accutac bipod. Now, I'm going to be running Tracer bipod system on this when I'm actually doing my training and my movement on the system. But for now, and as well as getting my zeros and everything set up, I want to be using this particular bipod. That being said, the whole weapon system currently weighs, I weighed it, weighs 13.4 pounds as configured and seen here. So, and some people would think that's heavy, some people think that's light. I think it's a good medium weight. When you're shooting magnum calibers, weight does help recoil with a good muzzle brake or a can. I choose a muzzle brake right now, but I think is the weight, that was my goal. One of my goals to be right around the 13 to maybe 14 pound range. I will be using this for hunting as well. So I'll be using this as a dual purpose type of rifle system and seeing where this thing goes, depending on how this weapon system ends up shooting, and there may be some little small detail changes. But for right now, this is the way it's configured. The other piece I might have on here is I've got I'm going to spin this. I have the SG Pulse Gen 1 SG Pulse, and basically that's a leveling device, a digital leveling device, and it has lights on it, green, red, blue. Green being it's perfectly leveled. And that is my system in which I build. The next phase that we're going to do is basically, I'm going to reload for this. I'm not going to be doing box ammo. So I'm going to have to load, develop, break in the barrel first, and do those things. And I'm going to take you through the journey of doing all of that and how I particularly use calculators, devices, to get your ballistic solutions and everything else through that. But I'm an old school guy too, so I still use a logbook as well. So I'll go over how I design my logbook as we go through this series. But a couple of things I do want to talk about along with the system. Great, pretty system, very expensive. That I do some little things here that may be good tips for a lot of you shooters out there. What I do is, especially starting with mounting my scope, I take a huge amount of time and a lot of effort to mount the scope properly. So every time you have your Picatinny rail on your receiver that has any cantilever or cant towards it to add more elevation to it, like 20 MOA or greater, you have to kind of line up, perfectly align your reticle as well as your bore. So your rifle and as well as the bore of your rifle and as well as so if you have a receiver that has integrated 20 MOA like this system does, or greater, so it gives you the ability to add more elevation for long range shooting. you have to line up your crosshairs or your reticle perfectly aligned with the bore. Okay, and that's kind of important because you're going to have a different kind of intersection that's going to take place that now it is married together to do that. So keep that in mind. So I have some little tricks here that'll help you, or it helps me at least at the very least, is what I do is I witness mark everything once I lock everything down. So as you can see here, I don't know if you can kind of see all that. I might have to put some light there, standby. Get my flashlight here. Okay. So as you can see, there's some gold marking. What I do is I use basically like a gold paint pen, and I witness mark here, and these lines represent for me my eye relief. Okay. Here, you look kind of on the top here, this is my canting. So when I take out the cant and perfectly center the reticle, which I have a whole process to do that, I witness mark that. So now I know. So what happens here, it serves two purposes. One, you take the guesswork out of it should you have to remove the scope from the rings and everything else, and you got everything preset and you're going to put it back. You kind of have everything witness marked and you can lock it right back down. Two, this is how you troubleshoot. There's been instances where a lot of people, I don't know if you experienced it, but I think most people have, especially when you're shooting magnum caliber guns, sometimes things get loose. And so when you're like, oh my God, all of a sudden your groups open up to 5 inches or something, like, what the hell is going on? You want to start and troubleshoot. It could be your scope. It could be your Picatinny rail. It's a one-piece integrated on this one, so I'm not going to have to worry about that much. But those that have the 2-piece or the 3-piece with the lug and everything else, sometimes things get loose. And what this witness marks also serves as is if the line breaks, or if all of a sudden you don't see it, and you're going to visually be able to see something happen and it moved. It's going to have you to correct. And if it did, when you make the correction, you're not going to have to go through the whole process again. You can just line everything right back up, lock it down. I've got it also marked on the mount itself, the base mounts on top of the rail. If you come back here, my length of pull, same thing, because you don't. Sometimes if you're banging it around, things get loose. You guys get the idea, right? And so basically, what this does is it's stupid proof. Sometimes I get stupid, so I need to proof that.
Stupid simple, right?
Stupid simple. So just some tips there. You know, like something like this with your eye relief, witness marking things. It really helps the process, and it'll help you troubleshoot if something maybe goes wrong, and you go through a troubleshooting process. I go as far to what I like about MPA is they have a bubble level here, which I level the whole system down with the rifle itself, and then I level the scopes up and everything else. And what I do is when everything is matching, I also use the SG pulse to verify. Yeah, and so I got it torqued. Hold on. I got it on the highest sensitivity, which is probably not a good idea, but hold on. What I like about MPA is they have a bubble level right here that I have found. You know, I put the bubble levels around the scope and everything else, and things get kind of cluttered. Even the SG pulse kind of not necessarily the most comfortable position to be in, but I don't have to look over, and the lights do work well. But I do use this as more of a verification. Then I kind of go back to line this up. And so what I do is I put a mark, almost like a aiming point. So when that little black ball in the level hits the center of that thing, I know that I can check it in the field. And sometimes I usually turn this off, and I rely on that once I verify it. And I use this to keep my canting when I shoot level, and in my head and my confidence, I know that everything is lined up through that, and I kind of use this as a redundant system when I use that. So based off of the way my eyes work and everything else. So, you know, just some tips. I don't know if people are using this kind of method. For me, I'm getting older, so I kind of need these little stupid proof stuff, and it helps me do, you know, sometimes shoot better to do those kind of things. Let me turn this off. Drain the battery. So this is the entirety of the system that I built, and I look forward to taking a journey with you when I do my barrel break-in and my load development, and taking it out to distance and see how these things shoot, and go over, you know, any good, bad, or if anything indifferent. I will share that with you and how I feel about this system. Now, I have, to be fair, I have shot this system with a different barrel, and I am a fan of shooting magnum calibers. So like the 300 PRC, I love shooting that particular system and that caliber. I love the 7 PRC. I have shot before, So this is more of a development and an idea that I produced in my head to put this together.
Wow.
Yeah, for this particular 7PRC, I'm going to do some load development behind that. I'm not going to be shooting box ammo. It's going to be all hand loads. And then see what we can do with the system and see how it works. Because I know traditionally on competition, you're going to have the length of the barrel for extreme long range is probably not, a lot of people are going to say that's not conducive. But we'll see. We'll see what happens with the load development stuff, because you have a certain speed and all that other stuff taking place, especially when I plan to shoot 190s out of the system. We'll see. Again, you know, I want to just kind of play around with that and do some tweaks. And I think we're going to have a lot of fun going through this journey together and information. So we can look at all the mistakes I make and, you know, some oops, and you guys can get an idea. Because to be quite honest, guys, these systems are not inexpensive. They're not cheap. Top tier scopes, just go on Your Optics, which probably everyone's familiar with Your Optics. Zero Compromise is not featured on Your Optics, but let's just say a Tangent Theta or a Schmidt and Bender. Those are top tier scopes. Collis, Hensoldt, all that other stuff. And those that understand kind of know how much the scope alone costs. What top tier receivers cost, so on and so forth. I mean, we're talking in upwards of, you know, $9,000 to $12,000 systems here.
Wow.
Sorry, honey.
Oh dear.
And that, well, I'm kind of gonna cover some of the benefits that could, because you have a quick change. We'll get into that, and that's kind of one of the ideas I have with this particular platform. You might be able to save some money, not a lot, but some. That being said, here we are.
Spotter ready?
Shooter ready.
Send it.
I'll see you on the next video as we move forward on this journey with this series. Have a great one.